They called them the Women of the Cross, foreign, pale, and doomed to vanish behind the high walls of Cairo. No one truly knew what happened after the gates closed. Only whispers passed through the markets, whispers that chilled even the bravest merchants of the Nile. In the year of the great Crusader defeat, when the banners of the cross fell beneath the scimitars of the Mamluks, hundreds were taken captive, nobles, knights, priests, and the women who followed them, believing faith could shield them. But the Mamluks were not ordinary conquerors. They were slaves who became kings, men forged in chains, who built an empire out of vengeance and divine discipline. To them, conquest was more than power. It was purification. Every captive was a symbol, every punishment a ritual to remind the world that Allah had turned his face toward them alone. The chronicles speak of Sultan Baybars, the Lion of Egypt, a man both feared and worshipped. His court was a paradox, a place of Quranic recitations and blood-stained judgments. And when Christian captives arrived in his city, he did not see them as people. He saw history's debt waiting to be paid. The women were brought to the citadel of the mountain, the fortress of the sultans. There the air was heavy with incense and fear. Their names were stripped from them. They were called only by symbols: the dove, the hawk, the serpent, the swan. And for each, a test was ordained, a test of faith and endurance. The first chronicler who dared to describe it, a Coptic scribe who later vanished, wrote that Baybars' court was obsessed with breaking the pride of its enemies without shedding their blood. "For pain that does not kill," he wrote, "is the truest servant of obedience." The women were made to endure a silence that could drive saints to madness, days without light, hours of chanting that blurred prayer into curse. One was forced to recite her prayers backward, a symbolic unmaking of her faith. Another was placed before a mirror and told she would see her soul leave her body if she stared long enough. It was not torture in the physical sense. It was psychological warfare refined by men who once had been slaves themselves. The Mamluks knew that to control an empire, one must first master the spirit of fear. One of the women, a noblewoman from Acre named Isolde of Tyre, kept her own secret chronicle, discovered centuries later in the ruins of an Armenian monastery. Her words read like prophecy: "They do not strike us, they unmake us. They take the light of the sun and the sound of our own names. I have begun to forget the voice of my father. I have begun to forget I was ever free." To the Mamluks, this was justice. Each humiliation was a mirror of the suffering they believed Christendom had brought upon Islam. The burning of Jerusalem, the killing of the faithful. Now they said the scales were being balanced, but something else haunted Baybars. He began to see the captives not as women, but as echoes of his own past. He too had been chained, stripped of name and home. Perhaps that is why he demanded they never be harmed, only tested. Yet as the moon rose over Cairo, rumors spread through the barracks. Soldiers spoke of strange sounds from the citadel, weeping that turned into laughter, songs in forgotten tongues. One guard swore he saw a pale figure walking on the walls, eyes glowing like candles in the fog. The Sultan summoned his chief jurist. "Is this witchcraft?" he asked. The jurist bowed. "It is guilt, my lord, the ghosts of conquest." But the Sultan was not satisfied. He wanted control, not chaos. So he devised what his historians later called the ritual of the Crescent, a purification rite meant to erase the captive's last trace of faith. The ritual would last 7 nights, no blade, no blood, only fear, silence, and memory stripped away, one layer at a time. And as the first night began, Isolde whispered to another captive, "If they take my name, they cannot take my soul." The jurist replied coldly, "There are many kinds of death, woman. The body's is only one." By the 4th night, Baybars began dreaming of the women. In his visions, they were not prisoners, but angels of judgment, crowned with iron thorns. They whispered in Greek, Latin, and tongues long dead. He awoke screaming, his palms marked with crescent scars. By the 7th night, no one spoke of the ritual again. The captives were never seen. The guards who watched them went blind. And the chronicler's ink ended mid-sentence. Centuries later, travelers would pass the ruins of the old citadel and claim that when the wind blew over its walls, you could hear women's voices reciting prayers, half in Latin, half in Arabic. A prayer for peace that neither faith ever answered. The citadel never slept again. After the 7 nights of the ritual of the Crescent, Cairo was never the same. The guards who had stood outside those chamber doors lost their sight, their sanity, or both. Some clawed at their own ears, saying the women's voices still sang inside their skulls. Others threw themselves into the Nile, murmuring of white veils and golden light that would not fade. Baybars himself forbade anyone to speak of those who vanished. Their names were stricken from the royal records, their possessions scattered. He built a marble fountain where their cells once stood, its water forever running, a symbol of cleansing, though none dared to drink from it. But something began to haunt him. In his sleep, he saw the faces of the women, not broken, but calm. Their eyes were lit with something between pity and damnation. They no longer begged for mercy. They waited. Soon, every victory of Baybars' army brought with it a shadow. When the Mongols were driven from Syria, a sandstorm destroyed his returning fleet. When he took Damascus, an earthquake leveled part of the city. And in every disaster, people whispered the same thing. The women of the cross have cursed the Lion of Egypt. His court astrologers tried to reassure him. His jurists called it blasphemy. But one old scholar, a blind Sufi mystic from Alexandria, said quietly, "There are debts that gold cannot pay, Sultan. The prayers of the wronged are the coin of the unseen world." Baybars laughed then, but not for long. His dreams worsened. He saw the women again, standing in a great hall of mirrors. Each reflection showed not their faces, but his own, multiplied, warped, screaming. When he woke, his servants found him bleeding from the palms, the same crescent scars deepened, as if freshly carved by an unseen blade. The empire began to tremble under omens. Strange lights appeared over the desert at night. Pilgrims traveling north claimed to hear chanting in 2 voices, one Arabic, one Latin, rising from the dunes. And every 7th night, the fountain at the citadel turned red as rust. Baybars ordered it drained. The next morning it was full again. His advisors begged him to destroy the chambers where the captives had been held. He agreed, but the workers who entered refused to continue. They said the air was colder than ice, that shadows moved on their own, that they heard the whisper of women praying in a language no one knew. The Sultan's power began to wane. He grew suspicious, cruel. He executed his guards for disobedience, his scribes for mistakes, his own viziers for imagined betrayal. But the more blood he spilled, the more restless his nights became. And then came the Black Fever. It swept through Cairo like a curse, killing the young and strong before the weak. The healers called it a judgment from heaven. The Sufi whispered that it was not heaven's doing, but the vengeance of women whose prayers had reached higher than any king's sword. In the delirium of his final illness, Baybars called for Isolde, the woman he believed had cursed him. "Tell her," he rasped, "that I was once a slave. Tell her I only gave the world what it gave me." But no one answered. The torches flickered, and he swore he saw a white figure standing at the foot of his bed, her eyes calm, her hands clasped, whispering words he could not understand. He died the next dawn, his lips frozen mid-prayer. The doctors said it was fever. The priests said it was judgment. But the servants swore that the last thing he said was not in Arabic at all. It was in Latin. "Forgive me." After his death, a strange peace fell over the citadel. The fountain ran clear again. The plague began to fade, but legends lingered. They said that each new Mamluk sultan dreamed of women in white standing beside the throne, silent, watching. And when the Ottomans conquered Egypt centuries later, their generals found a sealed chamber beneath the citadel, carved with strange inscriptions, a mix of Arabic and Latin. The scholars translated the first line easily: "We were not broken, we became the wind." And the second line, darker, harder to read, seemed to warn those who found it. Where faith and cruelty meet, the soul is divided, and the empire falls. No one knows who wrote it. But one Ottoman chronicler wrote in his diary that when they opened the chamber, a rush of cold air poured out, carrying with it the scent of rosewater and iron. As he closed the door again, he swore he heard the faintest sound of women's voices singing. Some say they were martyrs. Others say they were angels of vengeance. But those who know the truth simply call them the captives of the Crescent, the women who turned their suffering into legend, and whose silent rebellion haunted empires long after their names were erased. And when the wind moves through the broken arches of the old citadel, it is said their song still rises, a warning to kings and conquerors alike. Empires built on the suffering of the innocent will always crumble, not by sword but by memory,